G'day everyone, how are we all doing? Welcome back once again for another video. And today we've got a very special one. Today I am actually joined by Ryan Coly Levy, who is the English voice actor for Denji in Chainsaw Man. How are you doing, Ryan?
I am great. Thank you so much, Patrick. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. I'm just, as I was saying to you before we actually started recording, I'm just a little ecstatic that you said yes. And I'm thanking you once again for giving me this awesome opportunity.
Oh no, truly, it really does. I mean, a few people have been reaching out since all of this happened for stuff like this, and every single time I am genuinely honored and grateful and surprised. I'm like, you sure you want to talk to me? Like, so thank you for making space and time for me in your life.
No, of course. It's my pleasure, man. As a fan of you from your previous roles, whether it's, Fate Granddaughter or even My Hero Academia last year, where your character of Rhodey really hit like an emotional core with me
Thank you.
personally.
Did you see you? So you saw the Fate movie also?
Yeah, I saw the Fate movie.
Oh, amazing. I feel like, because we didn't get a theatrical release, and I was so bummed. And I felt like only so many people have seen it since, because it's like you kind of have to grab it or not.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Oh man, I loved that.
No, I always try to seek out as much as I can. If there's an anime that I'm really invested in with just the series and it's got movies, whether canon or non-canon to the story, I'll always try to seek it out and watch that movie iteration as well. Because even some of the original stories like World Heroes Mission last year have some new characters that are truly amazing, like Rhodey Soul was, but also just stories that you're like, I wouldn't experience this level of epicness, but also deep emotions if I never saw this movie. And that's what I'm really hoping out of the One Piece Red movie as it releases next. Wow, I
Oh,
think
it
it's
looks
actually next
so
week.
good.
It looks
That
so good.
song keeps getting stuck in my head.
Oh, I've stayed away. I've caught up on the anime as of this year, officially as of like a couple months ago. And
Wow, that's an accomplishment unto itself.
it was the only thing I watched for like a solid 6 months with a few other series here and there. It's like, all
Incredible.
right, I need a bit of a break. Because
Very impressive.
it's a lot to get through 1,000 plus episodes of an anime in such a short period of time.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It
While
is.
doing other things.
Exactly. Work life, other content, or with you, with your voice acting career and everything. Like trying to have that time to watch anything is really hard.
I try and make time. Funny enough, like I can't speak for everyone else who does what I do, but as an actor, I find it, I mean, regardless, I was doing it beforehand anyway, but I find it to be really important to like make time to play video games, watch movies, watch shows. Like it's, to me, it's not just fun for me. It's downtime, like it's actual relaxed time, but it's also, even without trying, it's like research for me. I get to experience great creators and see different stories and what's, interesting and what's not interesting to me, and what, people I might want to theoretically try to work with in the future, what, performances I'm really excited about. I love seeing other actors, really go all out on something and be like, oh man, I hope one day I get to work with this person, and all those
Yeah.
things. Or even just hearing a performance and being like, wow, the level of where we're at right now is so impressive. There's that stuff, to me, is essential. So like, even when I'm exhausted, I'm like, I will make time to, like, at some point during the end of my day, if that's where I get to it, like watch an episode of anime or play like 20 minutes of a video game. If that's all I got, like, I need to for my soul.
Yeah, you see, I don't play video games for fun these days as a completionist. I like to go through the painstaking process of
Oh yeah,
just
well that's a whole other.
punishing myself. Like, what is it, 2 years later, and I finally got the permadeath trophy in Outlast the other day live on stream. And
Wow.
I'm 2 years later, the sense of relief was just, it was just serotonin when I was just like, ugh. But then I'm
That's
like,
impressive.
I have to do this for so many other games as well as a completionist, because there's just something about seeing that 100% that is so satisfying. But going back to what you were saying before though, about like watching it or like getting inspiration or seeing if there were people that you'd like want to work with someday, was there any voice actor in, the anime dub community or industry, I should say, that you yourself would love to work with one day?
Man, like, it's weird, off the top of my head right now, I can't because it's like I'm overloading. Like I'm thinking of like too many people to think of one specific person. It's that weird thing when I've already been able to work with so many amazing people, and I mean, an easy one would have been Matt Mercer, but I got to do that, which is crazy, and like didn't even expect that was going to be something to put on the checklist. I think it's honestly even more so than the people that are already kind of my peers or like beyond. I'm actually more excited about the people I don't know yet, because there's so much new talent and there's so many awesome people that are like really creative and really, really stellar actors, and maybe just haven't had their moment yet or their time to show up. And I just genuinely love getting excited about working with people that love doing this. And as long as you're showing up, like I mean, Reagan's a great example of like, we didn't know each other until we worked on Saint's Magic Power. And I remember working on scenes, with Caitlin, who's directing us, and hearing him, because either he had recorded before me on one day or one of the other or something, and I got to hear him in a scene, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And like, and now I have an idea on how I want to do this versus what he did. It's like, that's what you want, is people to get you excited. And because as much as I think there's some incredible, people that are like quote unquote names, if you want to, do that, like, I don't necessarily care how popular or famous someone is. I just care that you care and want to show up and we could party, So I'm just excited to play with everybody. I'm just grateful that I get to do this at all,
Yeah. And that's a really awesome mindset to have going into the industry, because as you said, it's always nice to have like the big names out there and everything. And obviously you want to work with them to get your opportunity to be side by side with these so-called legends and everything. But really, there's so many talents out there, as you said, who deserve their time in the spotlight. And with everyone going into the industry, and I'm sure you can obviously relate, breaking in is incredibly hard. And it's a matter of being given that opportunity and being given that time to shine.
Yes,
and
100%.
It's obviously a very stressful experience. And for you personally, like, I wanted to ask you actually, what was it that made you want to get into voice acting in the first place? And what were some of the struggles that you personally experienced while getting into the industry?
Well, before voice acting, I never really thought about being a voice actor. I was a musician. I was a singer and a songwriter and guitar player and stuff in bands for basically from like 12 years old to like 32. But even before all of that, I was obsessed with film and video games and animation. It was my very first love. My parents raised me on like Chaplin films, and I had a Nintendo and NES, like OG. I grew up with it in my little den playroom. So I was obsessed with, I wanted to be a director. I like had film camera, like I was always, using my toys and creating stories and all this stuff. And in high school, I did a lot of theater and plays and all that. And I was taking the train to the city to do like acting classes at acting studios and all this stuff. And I just kind of didn't know what to do with it then. So once I moved to Los Angeles with my band in 2015, while we were doing our thing, I just kind of started to think about the idea that like, well, I'm in Los Angeles. Maybe I can do some on-camera acting, or maybe some like theater, or maybe just do some commercials for fun and some, just try and learn this, the love for this again. And I didn't really like push very hard at it. And then a couple of years into being here, my band broke up. I was working at a job that laid off like the whole department. So I was suddenly just completely like clean slate for my whole life. And I was like, oh, I'm just supposed to be pursuing acting, I guess. And I just suddenly my backup plan was even crazier than my first plan, and I just hunkered down and committed to being an actor. So I took acting classes again. I got my headshots done. I started submitting myself to all the different acting websites. I was getting extra roles in like commercials or like, little background things in movies and stuff like
in
that.
Fatal last year, was it? Fatal as the bartender?
Yes, exactly. That kind of stuff. Like just crazy stuff like that, where I was like, I just want to learn, be on set, hopefully have a cool experience and get paid to act. Like, I don't care what capacity. Like, I will start at the very bottom and figure it out from there.
Of course.
And I was just lucky that I started to get work at all, even if it was just extra work. And um I noticed that, like, it'd be like a 15-hour work day. It would be like 3 a.m. and me and all the other extras are waiting in line to get on the shuttle bus to get back to the place where we parked our cars to then drive back to our homes. And I remember thinking, like, I'm still like a bunny rabbit, like bouncing, like that was the best time. And everybody else around me is like, oh. I'm like, I think I might like make it in this industry. Like, I think I might, like care a lot about this and like enough more than other people. And then I remember randomly booking this voiceover gig online, and I kind of fell in love with the process. And at the same time, I ended up shooting this short film with a friend who was in my acting class, and that ended up being directed by an amazing voice actor named David Sobolov, who quickly became a very close friend. And he helped me produce a voice demo reel, which then I felt like, okay, I have this thing that is professionally, competitive, and I have some credits, that show I'm a working actor and all this stuff. So now I'm going to reach out to all of these different studios that I'm clearly nearby in my neighborhood that do all these voiceover things. And I'm not sure if this is the correct avenue, but these are, public emails that they have on their website. So blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to just basically, submit myself as this new actor in town and respectfully ask if I could either be on their rosters or receive auditions, whatever it is. And I sent all my stuff and assumed I would either never hear from them or, who at worst, I was like, I hope I don't get just like immediately blacklisted. Like this is a faux pas, but I just didn't know. And I was like, I'll be as respectful as possible and fingers crossed. And amazingly, everyone just at different points, some immediately, some a few weeks later, some a few months later, but everyone reached out and either just like cast me in some little NPC roles in a video game or brought me in for an audition. And it's how I started working with dubbing live action Netflix shows and stuff like that. And I just immediately somehow started just working. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I love this more than anything I've ever done in my life. And I can't go back. So I'm just going to commit and learn. Like I was really learning on the job because I never took a voiceover class. Like I knew my way around a studio and a microphone from being in bands for half my life, but there were so many technical things about dubbing and all these things that I was literally just learning as I was doing it. And thankfully I was quick enough to like process things and digest them. And I was just hungry enough and curious enough and flabbergasted that people would give me this opportunity so quickly. So I was just like, learn, get better. And every day I still feel like that. I love it so much. And I'm so grateful to everyone that first gave me that opportunity and continues to give me an opportunity to have a voice and to express myself, because this truly is the greatest job in the world. And it doesn't matter how talented or all the things, no matter what, luck is a part of it. So I know how lucky I am to be here.
That's really awesome. And just hearing that story, like it shows how passionate not only that you are, but also not just necessarily for the work itself, but for the industry as a whole. And it also gives a lot of insight as to how hard one has to work to make it in. And you also gave, in your own way, a lot of really awesome advice for any other aspiring, voice actors or people in the industry in their own way, whether it's through directing or, songwriting or as a musician or, acting in general, like through your story that you just provided, your struggle and just how you had to keep pushing and pushing. One key message is you really need to have a passion for this industry to really have that determination to make it.
There's good days and bad days, no matter what. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And if you don't have that love, that passion, and that drive for an industry like this, unfortunately, it's going to be a lot harder and a lot rockier of a road for you. And it's
Yeah.
a rocky enough road as it is. So thank you for sharing that. That was actually really awesome to hear all of that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I think the other thing too, for people who do want to pursue the industry, is like it's really important, even though this may seem like a no-brainer, it's so important to like to reiterate, it's so important to have a support system of friends or family or whatever it is that not only support you for what you're doing, but also like respectfully don't treat it like it's the whole world. You know, like you need people who don't necessarily care, you know, at the same time as much as they care. Like you want them to support you, but also like treat you like a real person instead of like, oh, hello, voice actor. Oh, hello. What, you know, like you don't need that from your closest people. You know, you want them to keep you real. And honestly, I think a lot of people, you know, who are pursuing acting have to remember that like the whole point of acting is you're trying to make these characters feel like genuine, real people. And the only way to do that is if you allow yourself to be a genuine, real person. And you can't do that if you're too busy, you know, just being your career, you know.
Exactly. And, you know, I think it's really amazing that you also bring up the fact that you need those people around you supporting you, because it reminds me of some tweets I saw from messages between your mum and your sister for how excited they were that, one, your sister, who was like, wait, is Denji Chainsaw Man? Are you technically Chainsaw Man? Which that
Oh,
had
dude,
me
that's the best.
that had me cracking up. And then your mum saying, what was it, that she was going to make liver or something? And then she called
Oh
herself
my God.
Chainsaw Mum, which is the most adorable thing I think I've ever read. That's just
Yes.
so sweet. And I love how supportive your family is of your career and you landing this incredible role as Denji, who is our lead character in Chainsaw Man. And considering the tweet you made, what is it, 12 or so months ago, how you would love to read for it. Like, what do you think Ryan back in 2021 would say if he knew that today, from his career and everything he's been through? What do you think Ryan in 2021 would say if he knew that today, 12 months later, you would be Denji in Chainsaw Man, considering in that tweet as well, you mentioned how much you love Tatsuki Fujimoto's world?
Probably almost identical to what I said when I got the phone call from Mike, which was like a lot of expletives and then like some kind of gasping for air and basically like trying to hold back tears while I was like, I think I'm gonna cry. Like
And then screaming how much you want to touch some tits, just like Denji would. You were getting into character. Don't do that. You'd get arrested.
Actually, the first thing I did right after I got the call was I called my mom, funny enough. Because I was like, she's known how much that how much I've loved this story and this character. And she's always like, she like for a year, she like knew, like I remember, because just like same way that like I wrote to my agents once the first teaser came out, like I just like told anyone that would listen that I was just like, look at this, just look at this. Like if I can find a way to even just like be one of the zombies that he obliterates in the beginning, I will be happy.
It's so satisfying, that sequence. I was just like,
oh my God.
that's
And
when I
getting to
realized
do
how
it was the
uncensored it'd
best.
be. Yeah,
Oh
dude,
my
I can
God.
imagine. I can't wait to watch the first dub episode tonight, like as of us recording this. I can't wait, and I can't wait to hear your scream as well.
You know, I will say that like I think what's really cool, especially about the first episode, that like, you know, it's so funny. Like I thought it was really interesting how like I think I had 2 lines in the trailer and like so many people have opinions in every direction. Like it's fascinating. What it doesn't matter good or bad, it's just fascinating. But I think that like regardless, you know, we made a lot of cool choices stylistically. I think the show is making a lot of cool choices stylistically. It's really cinematic and it's like really playing to the heart of the story and the characters and trying to make it feel as real as possible so that all of the wild, wacky stuff really hits that much harder. And I think that like what we're doing, you know, what Mike and I decided to do with Denji is really fun because how he sounds when you first meet him is a very different version of how he's going to sound as he
later
grows as a
on.
person, has different experiences. And his Chainsaw Man transformation in that moment, especially in the first episode specifically, like we wanted to find something that, while he will still speak in some ways in his own voice, like there's also this really feral, crazy kind of monster nature that we're adding to a lot of the actual battle sequences and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's really fun getting to do something where it's like shifting gears. I've never gotten to do something this crazy, so it's going to be cool.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing to do is to speculate how far into the manga we're going to go with these 12 episodes. And obviously I know you can't say anything regarding how far it is, but even in like the little things like the opening, I'm looking at like every single pixel
totally
and frame.
As a fan, I'm doing that too, because again, like we're kind of like obviously we're getting the information before you guys are, but like not necessarily like months in advance or anything. Like, they're not like, so in episode 12, like we're just kind of working along. And I think that's also really important, like for us, just on a production pipeline, is like, we need to focus on what's in the immediate so that we make that as best as possible. And, I think, it's not like, just because I've read this thing so many times doesn't mean that's every actor on the show's responsibility.
Of course.
It's like, so I think a lot of them are going to be experiencing this as actors and in the story for the first time. And I think like, that's really cool. So instead of them getting spoiled, because that's how it works for us, period, as actors, is like, we walk into the booth, most of the time we don't know what we're doing unless we're familiar with the thing already. And you're experiencing this stuff in real time, so the people who play a lot of these characters, whether they're doing the research on their own or not, or they're going to experience this in a really visceral way. But it's fascinating because like we don't know that much ahead of time with all that stuff. It's very much like there's so many moving pieces to all of this. And my fanboy brain, when I watch the opening and all that stuff, I do the same thing. I have my own speculations. I just choose not to make them public because people will then assume that I do know something or this or that or whatever. And I'm like, my job is not to ruin the process of like in the same way that I don't want something like ruined for me or like put out of order in some way. Like there's so many people coming to this for the first time who haven't read it, who haven't, whatever it is. And like, my job is to help tell them the story. I don't want to ruin the story for them,
And I've really been loving seeing the reactions from people who haven't read the manga as well online.
It's so
Those
cool.
who have just been watching the anime. And I'm like, oh, you like that? Well, just wait until later on. No spoilies. But guess what? It's like fun. You got to have that hush hush. And I think with me, like what I'm doing, because I've been loving the first 2 episodes so far, and I'm super excited for episode 3. Like, and then obviously I'm going to be watching the dub each week as it's coming out as well. So like, while I watch episode 3, I'm also going to be going back to episode 1 for the dub, which I'm doing for My Hero Academia right now as well. With season
it's
6.
So good, by the way.
I'm loving it so far. Season 6 has been so good as a manga reader of My Hero as well.
It's phenomenal. What a great adaptation.
It is, because season 5 admittedly let me down a little bit, but season 6 has already in the first 4 episodes just been like, boom, we're back.
Hell yeah.
But going back and watching the dub while watching the new episodes of the sub as well, and I like to do that because, as I said on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, as I found out that you were Denji, like I love to support both. I don't understand the discourse between what's better, sub or dub. Like there are definitely some animes out there like My Hero Academia, which I prefer to watch in dub, but there are ones like One Piece, which I prefer to watch in sub. I really don't think it matters, however, because
genuinely, we don't think it matters either. Like it's one of those things like I am happy that people are just enjoying it however they want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
People are going to argue about all kinds of things, just period, in life anyway. So I just avoid all of that kind of conversation. I try to remember that most of those people are pretty young or just,
of course,
or just don't know what to do with that kind of frustration. And that's the only place they can vent, all that stuff. So it's like, I also try and just like forgive them for their own frustrations and let them do their thing. But like I love the idea that, what's cool about this, what's been really on the opposite end of that, like exciting for me and and inspiring to me and humbling is that so many people have reached out who are like, normally I don't watch dubs, but I'm excited for this one, or I'm going to support
really
you guys, or
awesome.
whatever it is. And like that, I mean, when we screened the episode at Comic-Con, you know, that
jealous,
to me was like,
I'm so jealous.
It was wild because it was really cool seeing it with that many people. Because like, you know, an audience of like 5,000 people, like like this, there were screams and gasps and like, you know, people responding to it in a way that you're like, this is what you want, you know?
Yeah.
But there were some really kind people that came up to me afterwards that were like, normally I watch sub and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But they were just like, they were so kind. And
wow.
I know that that's not super common. So like, I find that to be like a huge honor. And I hope that this show can be something that maybe even helps show people like, hey, you know, maybe your perception of what this is and what it is, you know, and maybe they'll look into some other things, or maybe just learn to not, you know, feel the need to pick a side. Cause that's really the thing for me is like, I don't need you to pick a side. I don't want you to pick a side. None of us do. We just want you to enjoy this story, however you want to watch it. We're just excited to be a part of it. And something like this, like I'm genuinely way too happy to pay attention to any negative stuff. Like I don't have time for that. I don't have space for it in my brain.
And I think Chainsaw Man is a really important like narrative to tell when it comes to those different emotions as well, because when you think about it, the entire story of Chainsaw Man, each character, whether it's
all
power,
about these
Arky,
core things,
it's all about these core emotions. Like each character represents a different type of emotion, or sort of.
This story is for all of those people and all.
Exactly.
It's for everybody on every side. It's for I honestly, that is my great hope of this story kind of hitting like the mass wave that it is that someone asked me the other day, like what I hope the takeaway is from people who are experiencing this story. And genuinely the only answer that I could think of is I hope the takeaway is that people don't feel like they're alone. Because I think this thing really is about showing you like we're all kind of these broken, weird, lost humans in different ways, in different forms. And like, if there's anything you relate to in any of these characters, realize that like all of us are versions of these things. And it means that like we should be less critical of ourselves and each other and find a way to just be a little bit kinder and be a little bit more inclusive and warmer and more honest with ourselves. And, you know, that's what this story really is about.
Especially
you know?
With the devils, who sort of are a representation themselves of there is already so much ugliness in the world. Why do we as people need to pile onto that? And Chainsaw Man, what Tatsuki Fujimoto did so well is that it's a very simplistic story with very simple characters, but they're so effective and so deep and relatable because of those very reasons, because it's a core concept that in some way, shape, or form everyone can relate to, whether it's to Arky, to Denji, to Power, to Makima, or
there's so much depth. There's so much depth. Any of the characters, to Himino, to Kobeni, any of these characters that like, especially even if you show up for a minute. Oh my God, she's such a
amazing
character.
Especially like the conversation her and Denji have, obviously without spoilers, but after the scene in the bar,
and then you finally understand who. Exactly.
Were you aware that Arky was apparently meant to be Himino's older brother in the original draft of Chainsaw Man?
Yes, and it makes sense because of the look and everything and stuff like that. I totally get, but I think that what they did instead makes a lot more sense. I think it makes room for the Hayakawa family dynamic to be better, and it also gives him a lot more dimension. Which it gives him dimension on both sides instead of making it. He's such a great character. I mean, I love Arky. She's an amazing character.
She is. For me, though, the main trio are just amazing. Like Arky,
are truly special.
I have just this love for Power. Like I can't wait because I'm getting a Power tattoo on my leg to start a Lev tattoo.
Sarah's gonna freak out.
Yeah, I'll have to send you a photo to show afterwards.
Oh yeah,
because I'm gonna get the trio. I'm gonna around my calf area and shit. I'm gonna get Denji, Power, and Arky.
No way! Oh my god! To lead
into a full leg sleeve, and I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to get that. And Chainsaw Man's like finally happening right now, and I'm like, I had to get Power first. I'm so sorry, but she is.
I mean, like
I love her so much.
Power's the best. Power is the best. You do not have to apologize.
And That leads me to another question, though, with what we had
Sure.
previously. We were discussing in regards to how everyone can relate to these characters in some way, but you're playing Denji. In what way do you think that you personally relate to Denji?
I think I relate to Denji in a ton of ways. I think he is an incredibly layered, deep, and loving individual. I've definitely lived through major hardships and lived in some very feral survival kind of circumstances for quite a few bits at a time. I love that even when you first meet him and he's like missing parts of his body because he's already just having to sell things to just survive at the state that he's in, that's already so dark and depressing, he still has an optimism and a sneaky joy, and just there's still a hope that the next day might bring the opportunity that can get him out of there to try, eating
hopeful.
something or what. There's always
Eating a cigarette.
there. Yeah,
Eating
whatever it is, he's an opportunist, he's a survivor, he's resilient, and he maintains optimism somehow amongst all of that, while also being a realist. And I appreciate all of that so much. And I think, it's funny, obviously, for a lot of people to talk about, his basic desires and stuff like that, which are ultimately just very human,
especially with what he's been through as well.
Very
you can't blame him for having such low-leveled expectations or desires, because that's his motive and his
it's
resolve.
Also just like, these are just human primal things. This is just a normal, this is just biological on so many levels,
especially someone of his age as well, which
exactly.
He said that he thinks he's that age, which I won't spoil because that will come up in a later episode, obviously. But it's never actually really been confirmed what Denji's real age is.
All of that comes back to what I ultimately feel is what's so important about him, is that so many people don't necessarily credit him for having this depth or having this deep, compassionate nature to him, or being incredibly layered, because he's not educated enough to express himself in a way that people will go, like, people only say, oh, that person is so deep or thoughtful or something when they're eloquent or when they present themselves. But like, that is not what defines a person's depth.
No,
that just means they can communicate their depth. But as you see from the very beginning, just him and Pochita alone, and watching their relationship, you get a sense of who he is in so many, without even saying anything. You get a sense of who he is
from that first shot, really.
But the kid has no education, no nutrition, no anything, like mentally or otherwise. So like, the fact that he's even as intelligent as he is kind of a miracle, know. And I think all of that, the fact that we don't know exactly how old he is also an incredibly sad idea, because he doesn't know when his birthday was that defined that. He didn't have people who loved him enough to even tell him how old he is, to know when that started. We don't even know who his mom is. We don't even know that scenario. And like, we're going to assume it's probably awful, and sad.
Yeah,
and like,
especially if we know what happened to his father. Like, he already at such a young age.
Even get into, but so there's just so much there that I think it makes him such a deep and fascinating character. And yet, he's so goofy and all this stuff, and has all this kind of amazing, wild, springy nature. I think he's such a wild card in all the best ways. I adore him. Him.
And it's especially brilliant to see someone who doesn't know how to express those emotions in a proper way, as we would say.
Learning, just people. Like seeing it the first time.
He learns.
And like,
especially like, obviously, if we're talking like manga, which obviously we won't get too much into, but seeing him and Aki's bond at the beginning when they first meet compared to where they are later on in the manga, like how their relationship grows, is something so beautiful, because Aki isn't just like a mentor or someone to overlook Denji in the end. He's like a brother. And you can say the same thing for Denji and Power, even though they're just as idiotic as each other. And I love them both dearly for that.
No, they are a family.
They are. And it's really, really sweet. And that's a really core element of Chainsaw Man, I feel, as well. Family is a
Yeah.
very core element, and our main trio really does symbolize that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful.
It really is. And I guess that's why I fell in love with this world, because it's so layered, yet you've got to look under the surface to really find those layers, because it is so well written that if you just read it at baseline value or watch it at baseline value, you can be like, it's just like any other shonen. But if you look under the surface at all the different layers and really start to think and get attached to these characters, and you open yourself up to them, you give them your heart as well. It is truly something beautiful that can speak to not just one person or one community, but everyone, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's getting the response that it is, and the response that it has when it was just, you know, a manga, is that I think the touchstones of it, once you allow yourself to experience it, are just undeniable. And I think it's, you know, it's just a magical thing that we're all lucky to be able to have in our lives, and I can't believe I get to partake in helping to tell.
Yeah, it really is awesome. And I'm so happy for you and everyone a part of the team, whether it's the creative team at MAPPA or whether it's the voice acting cast and everything. Like you and Reagan reuniting after all this time. You know, that's really awesome, especially playing very similar sort of roles in a way in regards to your relationship.
Either way, I get to drive him crazy. Yeah,
exactly. And that's the main thing. As long as it's his head being banged against a brick wall, that's all that matters.
Yes, exactly.
Which you and Reagan, your friendship is just so sweet and pure. And I love the friendship the entire cast, a part of the Chainsaw Man, you know, team have with each other. Like just seeing the photos of the small videos from New York Comic Con on Twitter and everything, I'm like, everyone here is so passionate about this property, but also for each other and being a family, just like the characters are. And that's really sweet.
We're very lucky. We're surrounded by really amazing, talented, kind, wacky, silly people. And I can't say enough good things about all of them. And Mike included, who is just one of the greatest actors and voice directors ever. I mean, he is so warm and funny and generous and really cares. I mean, all of us, everybody on this project, every single person on both sides from here in Japan, like anywhere around the world, anyone is getting to work on this, I guarantee you, cares as much as we do. We all know how special this is, whether or not, like I said, like they read it before like I did, or they're coming to it fresh. Like this is an instantaneous understanding of like, oh, this is something else, and it deserves to be treated with the utmost love and care, just like everything does anyway. But I think people are seeing this and like stopping in their tracks, which is so exciting, because I love that for as like violent and bombastic as it is, like it's creating a space for so many people who normally wouldn't experience this to watch it. So I'm just psyched to see what happens in the coming weeks.
Hell, my sister, who doesn't usually like anime, like she judges me so hard for just because anime is basically the only thing I watch in my spare time. She judges me so hard, and I'm like, just sit down and watch this. And I sat her down. She's like 15 years old, and I showed her the first episode of Chainsaw Man. And she doesn't usually like reading subtitles. She doesn't like that at all. She gets very bored very fast. She doesn't have like that attention span. But her eyes were locked onto the screen that entire episode. And the moment the ending credits roll, I'm like, well, what did you think? And she's like, where's episode 2? I'm like, you gotta wait till next week. Like
amazing. That makes me so happy.
And that's the thing as well. I think it's so accessible to everyone as well. Like Chainsaw Man is a very accessible anime, not just to people who love anime itself, but to those who maybe want to get into anime. It's such an accessible property, such an accessible story.
It's so
with
fun.
So many
so funny. Yeah,
exactly.
It's got everything.
And gory. The gory goodness is always an added layer. And there are some things later on in the manga with
oh man, it gets wild.
I'm not even getting into it, but you know the arc I'm talking about with Beam and that Kaboom Boom and that one title of a shitty sci-fi channel movie, the one chapter. I am so excited to see that entire arc, that entire chapter adapted. I'm like, how is this going to look? This is going to be insane. Like, there are so many insane things in the story, but it's such an emotional ride as well.
Yeah.
No, I won't say that because it could lead into spoilers. It could lead into
Yeah,
spoilers.
no.
There
Well,
was one
let's
thing
keep
I
it.
will
Let's
say,
keep
and
it
I want to
clean.
keep it
Let's keep
spoiler
it
free.
clean.
Let's keep it clean, unlike Denji whenever he uses his chainsaws. All right. One more thing I wanted to ask you really
Sure.
quickly was obviously you play Denji and he's the chainsaw man. So there's the chainsaw devil and Denji as a character. But aside
Yeah.
from them, who is your favorite character and what is your favorite devil and why?
Oh, okay. I gotta go with power
Okay.
because there's just something. I mean, I genuinely love all the characters. Like I have I mean, I love Kishibe, I love Kobeni. I love
Yeah.
everybody for different like the characters to me, the best thing about this story is that every character, even if they show up for a minute, is fascinating and
Hmm.
unique and has something to them that you're like, I want more of that person.
Yeah.
But Power, I think, just is so fun and heartfelt and combines everything in one that is just great about this story into one of the most unlikely experiences. I think that is like constantly shocking people the first time
Yeah.
they meet her. Um, and what was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
Who is your what is your favorite devil?
Ooh, I think they're probably both later in things, so I won't spoil. One
Okay.
is seen dancing
Yeah,
in the
I know who
credits,
you're talking about.
and just because that whole sequence is just so funny on its own, and now seeing it kind of like how they want to visualize it, I'm like, it's going to be
It's gonna
hysterical
be
whenever that
creepy as
happens.
well. I think it's gonna be
Oh yeah.
creepy as well. I'm like,
um
oh,
oh, very much. I'm really fascinated to see how we do the Eternity Devil stuff because I think that
yeah.
that whole sequence to me, I think that is going to be something that is going to be really special on a whole other level. I mean, obviously I know he's not technically really called this, but I mean, Katana Man
Oh yeah.
is
Yeah, he's a lot of
epic.
fun. And seeing him
Um,
with those pendulums in the opening credits, I'm
yeah,
just like, that's all I
he
needed to
looks
see
so
to know that
good.
that
Yeah.
fight that eventually happens is gonna be badass.
Yeah, so I'm really there's a lot of stuff I'm excited about and getting to see certain things just kind of teased and loved in the opening. It's so exciting. It's hard for me to pick favorites because this really
Of course.
genuinely I just adore this story so much and like there's just so much good stuff in it, man. And for different reasons. Like there's so many fun characters. Like to say that I have to pick favorites is hard.
Yeah, and that's very true, especially with how different Tatsuki Fujimoto makes every single arc as well. Like it's
He's my
very
favorite character.
Tatsuki Fujimoto is the best character at
I mean
Chainsaw Man.
his like I think it's also the fact that he is so inherently clearly a lover of film and
Yeah.
being someone who grew up on film as my first love. It's like he was hitting all of my heartstrings before I even knew that we had those similarities. Like,
Yeah.
it's like David Lynch. It's like all these different things put together.
Tarantino.
And Tarantino, obviously, I mean, his sense of humor, clearly he loves the Coen brothers. Like,
Oh, of course.
clearly he loves like I mean, it's all over the place in the best of ways. And I remember hearing that Power, he created Power between a mix of Eric Cartman and Walter Sobchak. And I was like,
Oh my God, really?
that's yeah, I mean, like, so so is said. And if that is true, it makes so much sense, and then you just put that
Yeah.
into this third version and you have this amazing new character. And yeah, I think he's incredibly special, and I think he gets Western humor. I think everything he does just translates in a really beautiful way. And I think like you said before, he puts depth in this stuff where you can experience it at the surface level if you want, and it's super fun and exciting that way. Like it's a great time no matter what, but you can also mine the depths of this thing and it
Hmm.
can really change you in a beautiful way. So I'm just so grateful and so excited, and I can't wait for tomorrow to kick in so everything can like just go nuts.
You'll have to let me know like after the episode comes out, or I'll have to send you a message because I'm going to be up at 2 a.m. for that new episode
Oh
and then
my
to watch
gosh. Well,
your
please
episode.
get some sleep in between.
Nah, what even is sleep?
Oh no.
Nah, I'm definitely gonna get some sleep in between then, but I'm gonna be up for
Good.
that episode as it releases and everything, and then to watch the first dub episode basically immediately after. Like,
Thank
it's
you.
just how
Thank you, Patrick.
I've made sure to get Wednesdays off of work for a reason, because
Oh, smart. Okay.
it releases at
Brilliant.
2 a.m. on a Wednesday for us, Chainsaw Man. So
Uh-huh.
I've just taken the entire Wednesday off to make sure that even if I finish late at night on the Thursday, I can
You
come
can
home
veg
and
out.
I can just watch it for the new
Amazing.
episode.
Amazing. I appreciate that commitment. Thank you. Yeah, thank you just for being so supportive and kind. This has been so much fun, man. Thank you for the hang.
Yeah. No, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It's seriously been a blast talking to you. Like, I know we talked for ages before we even started doing the interview, but it was just like bouncing off of each other and everything, just talking.
Oh yeah, it's been great.
It's been so much fun, and like, you're seriously one of the sweetest, nicest people I've ever spoken to, and your
Too kind.
love and passion for the industry as well as this world that Fujimoto created is truly something that I admire so much. And
Thank you.
It truly is amazing to see.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I hope that you do find some rest amongst this crazy week. And I hope you really dig the third episode and the first episode of the dub. I will be awaiting your opinion. So I will
of course. I'll send you updates as I watch each episode, just to let you know. I'm super excited. No, but thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, man. It really has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for talking Chainsaw Man with me. It really does.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure is totally mine. Have a great rest of the week, and we will absolutely catch up again soon.
Oh, of course, whether it's to do an interview or just chat in general. Like, hell, when season 2 comes out, especially.
Oh my gosh.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Here's hoping.
God, we've barely started season 1. I'm already thinking about season 2. That's how excited I am.
I'm just happy to get to the next episode.
Oh, exactly. You know, that's a very fair point. Just each week, there's 7 days. It's like, come on, final stretch. Come on, let's go.
I'm so excited. I'm happy that it's week to week for that reason, that we really get to live with it for a week and get excited. And yeah, it's
same with the manga now. The new chapters of the manga are now.
That reminds me. I have to check. That reminds me. Thank you.
Yes, the new chapter drops like an hour or so before the new episode each week.
Yeah.
Thank God it's no longer bi-weekly like it was before Chainsaw Man started, and now it's weekly. And I'm loving this new part of Chainsaw Man. I can't say anything.
Oh, it's amazing.
Spoiler, but I'm loving the direction Fujimoto is taking. I'm loving it so far.
Once again, just proving why I've been so excited about this. It was like, still the best. Totally.
It's still incredible. We've been on a hiatus for far too long, and thank God it's back in. I actually say it's bigger and better than ever.
Oh, it's so awesome. It's so awesome. Well, I'm glad you're digging it. And yeah, once again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Seriously, Ryan, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I thank you guys who are watching this at home for watching and supporting, Chainsaw Man, supporting Ryan and watching this interview. It's honestly been so much fun to talk to Ryan, and seriously, go support the Chainsaw Man English dub as it comes out tomorrow or today as of this going up.
Wow.
At 2 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, I think it releases side by side with the dub. I'm not sure. I'm
awesome.
sub. Please forgive me. I'm very tired, but please go check it out. Go support Ryan and the rest of the cast and crew at MAPPA and the Chainsaw Man team playing all the different characters. Seriously, they deserve your love and support. Thank you guys so much for watching. Look out for more videos coming soon, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.